but there are two more musts. The second is that all the amino acids in the chain are left-handed, and I'll explain what that means. And the third one is that all of these amino acids are united between them by forming a chemical bond called peptide bond. Now, the probability of the amino acids being in the right sequences, for example, if we take, I told you there are trillions of different protein molecules in the nature. If you take a single protein molecule out of these trillions of protein molecules, which has 500 amino acids that are less than this, for example, 6 amino acid protein molecules or 20,000 amino acid protein molecules. If you take the protein molecules which is a moderate size with 500 amino acids, we find out mathematically, since there is 20 different alternatives, and this is 500 amino acid chain, it gives us there are 20 to the power of 500 different alternatives, which makes 10 to the power of 650 different alternatives. Which means a number with 650 zeros next to number 1. 12 zeros make, as you know, trillion. These 650 zeros, the number does not have a name. It is such a huge astronomical number, and only one of these alternatives is functional as a protein. The rest is dysfunctional. Slide, please. These are, like you can think, our left and right hands. Amino acids, although they have this exactly the same formula, they have mirror symmetry, like our left and right hands. For unknown reason, only the left-handed L-type amino acids are used in the protein molecule, involved in the protein molecules of the living beings, although there are right-handed ones in the nature. So there is an intelligence selecting using only the left-handed ones. If only one right-handed amino acid gets involved in the protein molecule, it makes this protein molecule dysfunctional. So that requires an omnipotent intelligence. In all these millions of species, their proteins, only the left-handed ones are used. Yes? And these amino acids are forming a very special chemical bond. It's called peptide bond. You see two amino acids over here. If they form this bond, a water molecule is taken away, and it forms a peptide bond. These peptide bonds, it requires energy, it requires specific enzymes to form these peptide bonds between amino acids. If you leave amino acids together, they never form peptide bonds, because it requires other proteins, enzymes. Slide, please. In the ribosome, in the protein factories of our cells, there is a protein molecule, an enzyme called peptidyltransferase, which forms these special chemical bonds. Basically, what we have to know is, if you leave the amino acids on the nature, they get destroyed immediately because of the ultraviolet, oxygen, and there are many chemicals in the soil. If they get destroyed immediately, they never form protein molecules. To form protein molecules, the right sequence of amino acids requires the DNA, because the right sequence of the proteins is encoded in the DNA. And only one of these is functional, so it requires the DNA for this. Second, L-types, left-handed ones, are involved in the protein molecules. This never happens by chance, because there are right-handed ones in the nature also, and they get involved and they make this dysfunctional. Only in the cell, the left-handed ones are selected by the enzymes. And peptide bonds are only made by protein molecules, enzymes. So basically, a single protein molecule to be formed requires other enzymes. Not enough. It requires a DNA, it requires nuclear power stations, mitochondria, it requires protein factories, ribosomes, it requires a living cell. And that fact destroys Darwinism at the most fundamental level. Because proteins to emerge by coincidences is impossible. They can only be synthesized in the living cells. So first a living cell must exist, must be created, and that, after that, produces protein molecules, and that fact destroys Darwinism at the most fundamental level. If any one step in the evolutionary process is proven to be impossible, this is sufficient to prove that whole theory is totally false and invalid. For example, by proving that haphazard formation, coincidental formation of the proteins is impossible, all other claims regarding subsequent steps of the evolution are also refuted. By proving that proteins to emerge by coincidence is impossible, Then after that, it doesn't make any sense to take some ape skulls and human skulls and engage into speculation whether humans evolved from apes or apes evolved from human beings. Now, Richard Dawkins, the most prominent evolutionist of our time, he's a militant atheist. On an interview, you will see over here, I'll make this in a little bit, he was asked about the beginning of life, emergence of life. A simple question. You will listen, but he says, we don't know, scientifically we don't know how that happened. But at the end, he makes a very weird and illogical, irrational statement. You know what he says? The first protein...
How did that happen?
I've told you we don't know.
Alright, let's listen first.
So you have no idea how it started?
No, nor has anyone.
Nor has anyone else. What do you think is the possibility that intelligent design might turn out to be the answer to some issues in genetics or in evolution?
It could come about in the following way. It could be that at some earlier time, somewhere in the universe, a civilization evolved by probably some kind of Darwinian means to a very, very high level of technology and designed a form of life that they seeded onto.
That
is a possibility and an intriguing possibility. And I suppose it's possible that you might find evidence for that if you look at the details of biochemistry, molecular biology. You might find a signature of some sort of designer.
Wait a second. Richard Dawkins thought intelligent design might be a legitimate pursuit?
You see, he admits that proteins and the cells to emerge by coincidence is impossible. But his explanation is so weird. He says, some aliens from the space brought this life to the world. And of course, after that, you may ask, who created the aliens? So this is a confession that it is impossible for the life to be emerged by coincidences. And at the next step, he will admit the existence of a creator. Next slide, please. Charles Darwin, he gives us the most concrete criteria to falsify his theory. There are many paragraphs starting in this book, if my theory be true. In one of these he said, if it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed, which could not possibly have been formed by numerous successive slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down. So basically he says, there are complex organ systems, for example, eyes, the lungs, the gills. If it could be shown that these complex organ systems could not have been formed gradually, step by step, as evolution claims, my whole theory would collapse down. And this is exactly what happened. The modern scientific evidences have shown the complex organ systems could not have been formed gradually, step by step, as evolution claims. And this is called irreducible complexity in the modern literature. For example, let me explain this on an example. Human eye, for example. Human eyes, our eyes are better than any camera in the world. Human eye consists of many different components, as you see, of many different parts. For example, it has a lens, it has a cornea, iris, muscles, eyelids, lacrimation glands, or the retina, for example. The retina consists of many different protein molecules and enzymes, an incredibly complex molecular biology of the eye. So if any one of these components is missing or defective, the eye cannot function. For example, no lens, no seeing. No cornea, no seeing. One of the protein molecules in the retina, for example, you take out the rhodopsin molecule, everything is there, no seeing. That proves us the first eye on the earth must necessarily be a complete eye. And this is confirmed by the fossil evidence. This is a trilobite fossil, which is 520 million years old. It is from the Cambrian period. An animal from the Cambrian period, became extinct. We don't have trilobites anymore. If we check the eye of the trilobite, you see over here, it has a very complex eye structure. It is called compound eye structure. And this is the first eye in the history of life as a fossil evidence, 520 million year old eye. And it appears all of a sudden. It consists of, slide please, many honeycomb-like cells, as you see here. In one eye, there are at least 600 different honeycomb-like cells, and each one of these has double lens, two lenses. So in